Hi, I'm Dave Gardy for CyberSecurity TV from our studios here near Washington, D.C. for another in a series of STIG Compliance TV. And with me here in the studio right now is Sandra Jamshidi, who is here as a special guest of our team. You've got a very interesting background. We're going to talk a little bit about STIG, but before we do, just give us some ideas about what your background's all about.
So I'm recently retired from the Navy, where I spent 30 years as a commissioned officer. Through that time, I was an information professional and came across STIGs on all the levels of policy at the highest level of the Department of Defense, working on the DoD CIO staff, down through resourcing at the OpNav headquarters, in the planning, programming, budgeting process. And on the deck plates, I've been responsible for running network operations centers where STIGs have to be applied to the systems.
So how does STIG fit into the scheme of cybersecurity? You know, how important are STIGs in the balance with all the needs and capabilities in cybersecurity and cyber defense, cyber operations today?
Well, when you talk to the professionals in the community, and whether you call it cybersecurity, cyber defense, there's always a healthy debate about the difference between compliance and risk-based decisions. And to the extent that the word compliance will often take on a bad connotation of we're here to do cybersecurity, not compliance. And yet something like a STIG will be mandated, and then we will measure and report the compliance. So much like we learned in elementary school that reading was fundamental, STIGs are fundamental. And we don't go into to learning calculus if we haven't learned how to read yet. And so when folks are having that conversation about, is it compliance or is it risk management? Absolutely, we have to do risk management and risk-based decisions, and sometimes we will accept risk. But in the case of STIGs, STIGs are fundamental. They are the basics.
Why do you think it's so difficult to achieve STIG compliance?
Yeah, so we haven't achieved STIG compliance yet. Even though I just said it's a fundamental, in many cases we have network systems and applications that are not STIG compliant yet. And it's easiest to describe it by breaking it down into probably easiest to comply versus most difficult. So at the highest level of easiest to comply is a network where the network is owned, operated, maintained completely within a single entity that's responsible for the resourcing of it and the configuring of it. So where you see that there are tools available to go out and STIG your systems, if you control it end to end, you're in the best posture to go and do that easily. Now that's not where our networks have gone over the last few years. So for many very good reasons, we're going toward the cloud. We've gone to enterprise networking. And so let's go to enterprise networking as a second level of ease. That is more simple because we're seeing that even some of the big competitions for network systems as a service, they've come in recently with tools like SteelCloud's ConfigOS to automate the process of STIGing. On a next higher level of difficulty are those legacy systems. So while we've gone to enterprise networking, we're moving applications to the cloud, we still read the DoD, and you know, I'm retired now, but still consider myself part of the family and the community, that we still have a lot of legacy systems out there. They're very difficult to STIG. One of the things that automation will help is where you can go into those legacy systems and start taking them apart to figure out why they're failing the STIG. That's often been too costly, and over time kind of, oh, we can't do it, it's too hard. We put those on waiver requests. They go through this very costly, time-consuming process of escalation, and then they're out there operating without being STIG compliant. There are tools available now that can be used to help break those systems down to figure out why aren't they STIG compliant, and now let's make them compliant. Much faster, much less costly.
What should leadership do about the STIG challenges?
Yes. So where I've seen leadership most effective is when they sit down next to a technician and say, show me how this works. Explain to me, what is a STIG? What is the difference between a STIG and a software patch? And And leaders, I've seen commanding officers of ships go through this and come away with an understanding of some of the tools work really well together, others are challenged, some of the tools are actually creating work for our sailors on a level that none of that is necessary. When leadership understands it, when leadership advocates for it, and when leadership goes back to the technical community and says, this is what's needed, it can be very successful. So we can move away from this, this sense of make it work, I don't understand what's happening in there, to a level of actually achieving the fundamentals.
So where are we today?
So as we have modernized the vast majority of our systems, there is still legacy out there, but it's better than it used to be, and most of the legacy is on a path for modernization as resources become available for it. There are tools available in the environment that can make STIGing an actual reality. So today, as we're looking forward to make changes to overcome where we've been in the past and to acknowledge and realize that this is possible and it is doable, it is absolutely as fundamental as reading, and we really just have to get at it.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate the time you've taken to come by today and give us some perspective on this. We've been talking to Sandra Jamshidi, who is an independent consultant. Thank you for joining us. Again, this has been another in a series of STIG Compliance TV series sponsored by SteelCloud. For more information, it's www.steelcloud.com. I'm Dave Gardy from our studios near Washington, D.C. for CyberSecurity TV. Thanks for joining us.